welcome to a very special edition of the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone A. Johnson here as always. We were going to be all set today to talk a little NBA basketball. The Knicks win last night. We're going to be set to talk about a little NFL football, big Thursday night action. But of course, as you are getting about your day-to-day major scandal, as the FBI and the Eastern District of New York have an announcement that a multi-year investigation has led to the arrest of more than a dozen people nationwide. But for our purposes in the sports world, an NBA gambling scandal that involves Terry Rozier, an NBA player who's currently playing for the Miami Heat. Prior to that, the Charlotte Hornets, a guy that's made over $100 million in his NBA career. Damon Jones, another former player who's on a number of different coaching staffs over the last number of years, and a Hall of Famer in Chauncey Billups, who has been the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. Those three guys and a lot of other mob-related people apparently were arrested coast to coast today at about 6 o'clock in the morning. And we've now have not the first and certainly not the last gambling scandal here in professional sports. Obviously, my background, for those of you who don't know it, I'm a compulsive gambler. I, very much like Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups, dealt with the FBI knocking on my door. For me, it was 4 o'clock in the morning, not 6 o'clock in the morning. And I've dedicated my life since that day to try to educate people, encourage people to learn more about gambling addiction and how to be a voice of not just reason, but help, as these leagues are now fully in bed with gambling sites. To that point, the NBA brought me in a few months ago to speak at their rookie symposium to tell my story, my gambling story, and what it cost me in life and the dangers of going down the slippery slope of gambling to every single rookie in the league. So I know firsthand that the NBA is aware of the potential of the problem, is concerned about that potential, and spends their good hard-earned money on trying to educate players in the league about the dangers of gambling. So I just want to give you that as a background, okay? I did it. I don't get paid to do it. The NBA asked me to come do it, and I did it along with Randy Livingston, former NBA player, former player of the year in high school and into college many years ago, who also has a gambling problem. And he and I spoke to every single rookie in the NBA. So here's the deal. When you get in bed with gambling sites, when the country, 38 states in the country, have legalized wagering on professional sports, this is bound to happen. There are players that are actively playing in every single league right now that are gambling on their own team, on their own sport, on the opposition, you name it. So do not think for a minute that this is unique just to the NBA. There are baseball players gambling. We just had the Ohtani scandal with the interpreter. I still don't think we've gotten the real story on that, even though we spent an hour with the bookie that took all the wagers here exclusively on the show a few months back. He's now in prison for a year and a day. The interpreter's in prison for 5.5 years. If found guilty, Terry Rozier is going to go to prison. If found guilty, Chauncey Billups is going to go to prison. If found guilty, Damon Jones is going to go to prison for a lot of different charges. Many of them are wire fraud and bank fraud and things of that ilk, okay? So let's just break down the Rozier part of this first, because this is the most damaging one from the NBA and their integrity and their fear of losing their integrity. This is what I counseled all the rookies in the NBA a few months ago. You yourself may not be a gambler. You may have never wagered in any capacity whatsoever, but you know what's going on either with teammates or players playing for the other team. If you have a person in your life that comes to you that needs financial help, you have a couple ways of helping that person. Yeah, you've made a lot of money. You can write that dude a check. Not everybody wants to write a check to help somebody out. And depending on how close to that person is, there are cases that I'm firmly aware of that have not been made public yet, where a buddy down on his luck, a relative down on his luck says, I need you to help me out. Well, what's the easiest way other than writing a check for a professional athlete who's made over $100 million to help you out? Hey, look, I'm playing next Tuesday. Meaningless game. Bet the under on all my stats. And that's what Rozier is being accused of. Obviously, he gets his day in court. His lawyer has come out and said, we talked to the FBI over a year ago. We told them we'd give any information they wanted. They told us that he was a subject. He wasn't, what's what I'm looking for?
He wasn't a target.
He wasn't a target.
In the investigation.
I've lived that as well. You go from subject to target. It happens as their investigation increases. And there's the statement right there. But all that matters is the tangible evidence we do have. And there's one particular game when Terry Rozier was playing for the Hornets where there were a multitude of wagers placed in different states at different sports books, online and brick and mortar, where you can wager on sports, and someone made thousands of dollars of bets that Terry Rozier would not hit the over on points, on rebounds, on assists.
Yep.
All right? And in that very specific game, according to the FBI's investigation, Terry Rozier not only did not hit the over, he took himself out of the game with an alleged foot injury. So now you start doing the math. This isn't hard to follow. If we have obscene amount of wagering taking place on Terry Rozier's props for a specific game, and in that specific game, all the wagers on his props, every one of them are on the under, meaning less than 18 points, less than 9 rebounds, less than 7 assists. I'm giving you arbitrary numbers, of course, there. And in that game, where there's suddenly an influx of wagering on his under, which is the only thing you can guarantee to control. I can't guarantee you I'm going to score more than a certain amount of points. My shot might be off.
You might miss, yeah.
I may not get the looks I normally get. I can't guarantee you I'm going to have over any number of assists. I might give you the ball, you miss the shot.
Yep.
The only outcome I as a player can guarantee is the under or turnovers. That is it in every sport. I can't guarantee anything else. So when all this money comes in the same day in about a 45-minute span at multiple casinos, and every one of those wagers is on the under for Rozier's performance, and in that specific game, he gets injured and doesn't play more than 10 minutes, which guarantees, of course, that the under bet is going to hit. Well, what do you think the sports books are going to do? They're going to flag the wagers, which is what they did. They're going to report them to the league, which is what they did. And then eventually, based on what the league finds, it's going to go to the feds. Here's where the NBA has its biggest problem, because I know they are cooperating with the FBI and the Eastern District of New York, okay? The biggest problem right now in the moment that the NBA has is that the NBA allegedly looked into it themselves and cleared him. Now, there's some debate as to what that means. I'll just take it on face value. The NBA became aware of it because the sports books that they're in bed with flagged the wagers, reached out to the NBA, which is their job and how this works. All the leagues have a deal like that, and said, we need you to look into Terry Rozier on this particular day. The problem the NBA is going to have is that why did they clear him of it? Because if the FBI did a multi-year investigation and they allege that they have him dead to rights and they can prove it, how did the NBA miss it? Because I know for a fact, and the NBA has acknowledged this, they investigated Rozier and they cleared him of this when he was first accused of doing it. But then, of course, there's the bigger issue. And the bigger issue is, as a compulsive gambler, you are never going to stop this from happening, ever. Because as long as there are people gambling, there are people who are in financially desperate times. And when you're in a financially desperate time, you will break the law if need be to get out of that financially desperate situation. And no matter how many talks they have, guys like me do, to the rookies and to executives and to leagues and the front office to educate people on what gambling addiction looks like, as soon as you have a person, whether it's a player, a trainer, a GM, an employee, anybody involved with the team in any sport that is now in harm's way because they need money desperately, the easiest thing to do is to trade on the inside information you have. Much more on this coming up. It is the exact type of scandal that keeps commissioners awake at night, and it ain't going anywhere. And we'll break it down more right after this. Hi, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone, I'm watching basketball last night, and one of the worst things timing-wise of this, right, is that, night one, you had the great doubleheader, double overtime game, right, Houston, Oklahoma City. Last night, my Knicks actually used their bench, went 11 deep in beating the Cavs, a team they didn't beat a single time in the regular season last year, and that was without Hart and without Mitchell Robinson, of course. Cavs were without one of their best players.
Yeah, Garland was out,
Yeah, Darius Garland, who's a phenomenal player, was out too, so that kind of evened itself out. But the Garden was electric last night. Yep. Your Sixers get a ridiculous performance from your rookie.
Yeah, VJ Edgecombe, third most ever.
30-plus point. Like, what are we? So they beat the Celtics by one. Joel Embiid looks like me trying to play basketball, but that was a great game last night. Yeah. And then you had the premiere of Cooper Flagg, who was a big donut last night. 0 points in the first half. Wound up with 10 for the game. They get blown out. And for a 48-minute little a piece of history, Wemby looks like the greatest basketball player of all time. In between the leg handles, from 30 feet out, dunks, blocks, rebounds, made Anthony Davis look like he was slow and old.
Yeah, like a child. He's little.
It was like this great night of basketball last night. And I came in today prepared to Wemby and Cooper Flagg. He's got to get out of those New Balance sneakers. They're holding him back. Goes scoreless in the first half.
Right.
And then 2 hours ago, we get the news that Chauncey Billups arrested at 6 o'clock in the morning out of Portland, Oregon. We get the news that Terry Rozier arrested in Orlando, I think it was.
At the team hotel,
because that's where the Heat are getting ready to play the Magic, at the team hotel at 6 o'clock in the morning. And their people are all pissed off like, why didn't you just tell us to turn ourselves in? Because the FBI loves the perp walk. I got it too. The FBI, when you're a celebrity or well-known, they want you to be embarrassed. They want you in handcuffs on camera. They want to do that to you for a lot of different reasons. And any one of these guys could have turned themselves into local authorities and been processed and arraigned and all that stuff. But no. At 6 a.m., we got to go to the team hotel and perp walk your ass out of the hotel because we want to make a point. And the point is, we got you. They do not lose a lot of cases.
No.
They do not. They're like 99%. Once they get you, they got you. Plea bargains count as guilty pleas as well. But once they get you, they got you. Here's the problem, though. The problem now is how commentators react to this. Whether it's ESPN or Fox or CBS or NBC, whatever network you're on, whether it's us here, at Sports Grid or Red Seat and all that stuff, because it's going to be very interesting. Like, I don't get paid to go talk to the NBA Symposium. I don't get paid to do this Sunday morning show that I've done for 5 years called Hello, My Name is Craig. And the reality is that you have a lot of commentators and broadcasters and hosts who get paid a lot of money to promote parlays, to promote prop wagers. They're the two largest wagers made that benefit the casinos and the sports books. So for people to come out today, and I was very interested to see how other networks would handle it, and they did not handle it well.
No.
ESPN blew it off for the first 35 minutes of the shows that were on live as the story was breaking. But how do you go from being critical of Terry Rozier or Chauncey Billups in this case, or commenting on the current state of gambling in professional sports, when 5 minutes later, I'm going to see a commercial in which you're encouraging me to wager on professional sports. And more specifically, you're giving me your best parlay bet or your best prop bet. So it's interesting how you're in bed with these people. You're being paid by those people, and now you're going to wax poetically and have some moral superiority over what guys like Billups is accused of doing and what Terry Rozier has been accused of doing. They get their day in court as well. The difference here between Rozier's case and Billups' case, as I understand it, is that Chauncey Billups was involved in a rigged poker game.
Yes.
I have played in these games. You should never play in a poker game where they use an electric shuffler.
Yeah.
Because you can rig those shufflers. Casinos have been accused of rigging those shufflers to guarantee that you as the player lose. Or in a poker game, if I know what everybody's got, then I can just call you and go, hey, you've got the best hand, bet it. or that guy's got a bad hand, bet against it, that kind of stuff, right? So that's what Chauncey Billups is allegedly involved in, illegal poker games where the games were rigged.
Yes.
And then he was getting a payoff to bring people in to wager in a rigged game. That I don't care about that as much. It's bad. He'll go to prison for it if he's found guilty. But that's not fixing basketball games. The biggest fear we have with legalized gambling is the integrity of the sports that we love. It's why I go crazy when the Kansas City Chiefs get the benefit of bad calls, or when the NFL invents calls to support a specific team. We see it. It happens. And the reason I'm so bothered by it, as I said the other day on the show, is because American people have a lot of their hard-earned money wagered on the outcome of games. And if the games are not going to be decided honestly, I need to know that so I don't wager on the outcome of a game that is not being decided honestly. This is the only issue that keeps Adam Silver, Gary Bettman, Rob Manfred, and Roger Goodell awake at night. The integrity of the outcome of their sport. And they can't have it both ways. And they want it both ways. They want us to feel and know that they are the highest level of integrity when it comes to the outcome of their sport. But in the same breath, they take hundreds of millions of dollars from the sports books and promote the exact type of wager that a player can control. The other part of this, from a player standpoint, and what I cautioned all the rookies about, was the plane rides. Guys on a plane playing games like hearts or spades, or in the South it's called bourrée, for significant amounts of money. It's the whole Gilbert Arenas story.
Yep.
Why did Gilbert pull a gun on a teammate? It was Crittenden, I think it was. Because he didn't pay him the money he owed him from a card game on the plane.
And it was north of six figures. He wanted his money.
Real.
Yeah.
So gambling is a byproduct and a fabric of all sports because of all the downtime guys have. Whether it's baseball guys in the locker room, NBA guys on a plane, NFL guys in a hotel room the night before. Gambling is an intrinsic part of the lifestyle of a professional athlete. And you expect young, immature multimillionaires to not do what they've always done, to not tell their best friend, hey, Billy's not playing tonight. He twisted an ankle. Nobody knows about it. There's no way to avoid it. I don't think you should embrace it. But this type of story is unavoidable for the rest of time. All right, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. It's hard not to do the whole show on this because it is the really only story that matters in sports. I do want to acknowledge Wemby last night, though. I'm not a Wemby guy. I'm not. I have not been. But if that's what you're going to get out of that dude every night, then he's the best player in basketball on the planet.
Yes. No one can. If he's going to be like, obviously not going to score 40 every night, but if he beats you, if he continues to do that many different things,
it's stupid.
He's going to be the best player in the league.
He was basically their point guard, their center, their power forward, their best defensive player, their best offensive player. And I'll be honest, at halftime, I forgot about Cooper Flagg, partially because he was scoreless in the first half after this and that opening alley-oop dunk, which would have been a great way to announce your arrival in the NBA. But Wemby, my God. Like, I'll tell you the only other surprising thing from last night's action, the Utah Jazz were up 45 points at one point last night. The Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know where that came from.
They won by like 20 or something.
But
I turned on for a second. I go, they're up by 40? The Jazz?
The Jazz.
That's like the worst team in basketball. I'll tell you another thing. I'll say this for you. When they announced this gambling scandal with Terry Rozier, and by the way, Javante Porter, I don't think he's got to prison yet. I think that's still being adjudicated. Malik Beasley, who they brought in, they arrested him. Then they cleared him, and I think he's back under investigation again or something.
That investigation apparently involves NFL games, but apparently he's good on the NBA side for now.
Okay, and let me just walk you through the rules. NBA players are legally allowed to wager on NFL games. They're not allowed to wager in any capacity, of course, on their own sport. And to show you, by the way, just a continuation of yesterday's show, how tone-deaf the NCAA is. So yesterday, 24 hours before we find out that there's this gambling scandal in the NBA, The NCAA ratified an agreement to allow college athletes to legally wager on professional sports. Because that's the NCAA, totally in touch with society as we know it. Look, it's a real problem. It's a real problem. It's one of those problems that is never going to go away. You cannot control it. Because as much as the NBA will tell you it's serious to them, and it is, and they'll have symposiums of people like me talk about life experience and losing your freedom, revolving around gambling and all that stuff, at the end of the day, you're not going to convince every single adult that plays professional sports not to do something that might be dangerous for them.
Right.
Because you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to also be able to legislate out culture from leagues. There's a culture in the NBA where guys play cards for a lot of money, whether it's bourrée, whether we call it spades, whether it's hearts, whether it's poker, whether it's straight up blackjack, whatever it is. You're never going to be able to legislate that out of a man's culture, of a man's background. This is what we do, and this is how we pass the time. This is how we bond and build relationships, and 99% of the time, it's not a problem. When it does become a problem, though, it becomes headline news, rightfully so. The Portland Trailblazers now need a head coach. I imagine one of their assistants will get the interim job for the rest of the year. Chauncey Billups is done. Unless he's completely exonerated from what he's accused of, Chauncey Billups is a Hall of Famer that will no longer be welcome inside an NBA arena. He's no longer employable by the NBA, and he's got the gold jacket.
Yeah.
All right?
And he's a champion.
And a champion, and a guy that's made over $100 million in his lifetime, which is the final thing I want to say about compulsive gambling on this. And Rozier, by the way, made over $100 million in his lifetime and was set to make $26 million or so this year, the last year of his contract with the Miami Heat. This is real money guys are risking. For those of you that asked the question, it's a fair question asked. If you have that much money, why would you gamble? And it's a very fair question, and one that I can answer because I did it. I was making millions of dollars, and I still wanted to go gamble and risk everything I had in life. Because you have to get around to the fact, let me put it this way, that while you may not think this, you may not want to believe it, it's an addiction. Much like drugs is an addiction, alcohol is an addiction, overeating is an addiction. There's a lot of addictions out there. This one's the one that's mocked the most. You know, alcoholics are just alcoholics, drug addicts are just drug addicts, but compulsive gamblers are degenerates.
Yep.
It's a stigma associated with being a compulsive gambler. We don't call alcoholics degenerates because they're addicts. I'm an addict. Compulsive gambling is an addiction. And it's irrelevant how much money you make because the money no longer matters when you're in the throes of the addiction. Case in point, when I went to rehab and I thought I was a big man because I'm winning and losing millions of dollars at a blackjack table, I sat across from a man from Oklahoma whose addiction was $1 scratch-offs. And he processed gambling mentally and emotionally the same exact way that I always did. And when I asked him how he figured out he had a problem that brought him to rehab, you know the little silver shavings that come off, the scratch-offs? He got into his pickup truck after buying more, and there were silver shavings up to his knees. We're gambling addicts. That's what we are. The money's irrelevant. Hi, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone A. Johnson is here. Again, trying to unpack the huge scandal today as announced by the FBI and the Eastern District of New York. 3 guys, NBA related at least. One, an active player, Terry Rozier, accused of essentially fixing the outcome of his personal stats to enrich gamblers. Number 1. Number 2, you have Chauncey Billups, alleged to have been a part of a rigged underground poker game in which the shuffling machines were rigged and the guys running the game knew what everyone's cards were with a Fugazi kind of poker table table that had some type of see-through mechanism to it. And then Damon Jones, who's been in the NBA or involved with the NBA for better than 20 years, is now a coach, I think, with the Rockets, I want to say.
I believe he's
or the Cavs.
I'll check.
You double check that, but Damon is involved with both of the scandals. Obviously, Chauncey Billups being a Hall of Famer and a current NBA coach gets news and should, but no one's accusing him of fixing games or the outcome of player props or points. He's accused of wooing people to come participate in a rigged game and then financially benefiting from their losses. One guy who apparently was playing in these underground games lost upwards of $1.5 million.
Yes.
All right?
Yes, indeed.
The Rozier case is much more concerning, of course, for the NBA because it's a guy that's affecting the outcome not just of a game but also his stats. Those stats are bet on. So let's just talk about victims here for a second, okay? And this is going to seem counterintuitive to what everyone else says. The first victim in all of this is us, the fans, that think we're watching a game where the outcome is being predicated on guys actually trying their hardest.
Yes.
So if there was a game in which Terry Rozier, and we've now, I think people are putting the video of it out there, where he takes himself out with a foot injury. If we're now affecting the outcome of games and his stats are being affected on purpose, the integrity of the sport's in danger, which is why it's such a big deal. All right, so the only thing a player can control are his own stats and never the over, always the under, which is why every one of these wagers that gets flagged is an under wager. Javante Porter were under wagers when he took himself out of a game, allegedly, right? So that's why it's such a big deal. The first and biggest victim outside of us as fans who think we're watching a fair competition are actually the sports books because they're the ones that are booking the bet. And if I'm placing a bet that I already know the outcome of, well, then the victim here is the casino or the sports book that's taking the action on the results that have already been decided, but they don't know they've been decided. So I know it doesn't seem smart to think of it that way, but they're the biggest victims here because they're the ones that lose money on the wagers that were placed, which is why they have a system in place to flag questionable wagers. And which then gets us to greed, right? If you made one bet for $1,000, ain't nobody gonna flag it. You got lucky.
Yeah.
When you make 60 bets for tens of thousands of dollars across multiple websites and brick and mortar casinos, at some point they're gonna talk to each other. Hey, we just got a lot of action on the under and Rozier points, assists, and rebounds. Yeah, we did too. They flag the wager, they get investigators on it, the FBI gets involved, and then you have a press conference. But the biggest victim here, outside of us as fans, are the casinos themselves. Go ahead, Tyrone.
Now, in the Rozier case, to what you just said, just to give people some more background if they don't know all the details, it was 30 wagers in 46 minutes by this professional bettor for $13,759, all on the under. So 30 wagers in 46 minutes. To your point, that's how they got caught.
Yeah, that's how you get caught. You know, pigs get slaughtered. I mean, it's the oldest thing. Greed is what kills you. You know, if you made one bet in one site for $500, but again, the idea is I may not get this information ever again. If Terry provided his crew, his buddies, whomever, with this inside information, it may never happen again, so I'm going to maximize it. And one of the things I cautioned the rookies about when I spoke to them was exactly this. The easiest way for you to help a buddy out, and I think it was Michael Porter just spoke about this in the offseason.
He did.
He said, if I got a buddy who's desperate for $10,000, I can guarantee him 10 grand by telling him to bet the under on my points, not playing or taking myself out of the game. No one's going to think twice about it. Athletes get hurt all the time. And then my buddy just made the 10K. It's the easiest way to do it. And a lot of these players feel like you're never going to connect it back to me. I didn't make the bet. I'm allowed to twist an ankle and be taken out of a game. Injuries happen. Illnesses happen. I don't feel well happens. And I just helped my buddy out because he's a dear friend from our childhood. He's desperate for money. I helped him make 10 grand and put it in his bank account.
Right.
I get that. You know, it's the old Allen Iverson story. There was a point when in his heyday playing for the Sixers, he had like 23 guys on his payroll, all making 100 grand or more.
Yep, they used to be called Crew Thick.
Yeah,
that was the name of the crew.
The above the board way. He took his own hard-earned money and paid dudes.
Yep.
And someone once said to him, Allen, what do these guys do? And his answer was, they live. because these guys had a pack. A lot of us can't relate to that. He could. So if you're one of these guys in the NBA, if you're Terry Rozier and a guy comes to you and says, yo, man, I'm in trouble. I need money. Or, hey, what do you got for me? Help me out. You know, my girl's pregnant. I lost my job. My mom is sick. Whatever the case may be. And you're like, yo, we're 40 games under 500. You know, it's spring. The game doesn't even really matter.
Yeah.
All right? You know what? I'm going to twist an ankle. When we play the Heat next Thursday, just bet the under on all my props. Guy does it. Guy wins $13,000, whatever it is, and you figure no one's going to catch on to him because Rozier didn't make the wagers, but he's guilty of affecting the outcome of the wager. It's look, the NBA is not a victim. I can't say they're a victim because they willingly got in bed with all the gambling sites. They promote gambling. They're knee deep into it, and gambling is the biggest advertiser they got. Yeah. All right. You watch an NBA game, look at the lower part of the screen. There'll be an advertisement for a gambling site. There'll be reads during the game. There'll be commercials during the game. Make the game more fun by wagering on it, right? So I don't think they're victims because of that. But the NBA also didn't do anything wrong.
Not in this case.
And I know everyone wants to yell at the leagues, well, this is what happens when you get in bed with gambling. Guys, people have been gambling before it became legal, you know, forever and ever and ever.
Oh, yeah.
If I wanted to make a wager, if I want to make a wager today and not do it legally, in 5 minutes I could find a person or a place to go make illegal wagers. And that's the other thing a lot of the other commentators know nothing about. So I know I'm on a soapbox. I don't mean to be. I just don't know what else to talk about today because this is pressing and it's what every league is afraid of. It has never, ever in the history of our country been illegal to place a wager. Now, if you place a wager with inside information, that's illegal. Mm-hmm. All right, it's fraud. But it has never, ever been illegal to place a wager, even with a street bookie or the mob. The only thing that has been illegal is the guy or gal that books the wager that takes a vig on the wager. That's what's illegal. I'll give you an example. The famous movie and former Olympic athlete, Molly's Game.
Yes.
Molly ran one of the biggest poker games in New York City, was encouraged to take her poker game out to LA, which she did. And for years, when she ran her underground poker game, she never took a piece of the action. So the only way she ever made money would be from tips. Guys win a lot of money, you tip the host. It's a thing you do. It's like code in the gambling world. And then someone came to Molly one day and said, you're losing out on millions of dollars. The house should take a small piece, 1%, 5%, something in that area of all the action that comes in. And the day that she decided to go from, I'll make my money on tips, to I'm going to take a percentage of the action, that's what broke the law. And then you had a guy not pay, and then people start talking, everyone's got loose lips, and the feds found out about her game, and she went to prison for it. But it's not illegal to place the wager. And people always get that wrong.
Right.
It's illegal bookmaking. It's not illegal wagering. In any event, it's still a black eye on day 2 of the NBA season. And I thought the NBA got off to a great start.
They did.
The NBC stuff was great.
Yep.
The Michael Jordan stuff was great. The games were great, most of them, the first 2 nights of the NBA. And now we're dealing with a scandal that they cannot avoid.
Yeah, there were 4 40-point scorers, all 27 years of age or younger.
Which is what the NBA needs.
Right, the influx of young talent, and now no one's talking about that.
Yeah,
no.
because remember, the NBA went to a 6-year-old Michael Jordan to get people to turn on NBC.
Right.
You know, nice to have guys under 30 actually balling out. All right, we'll get into some other stuff. Tua spoke. You're going to love that. And some other thoughts coming up. All right, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. And look, it's hard. This is one of those days in this business where if I start talking about Tua, telling everyone he's too small to see over the offensive line, and this is the only moment you tune into the show, you'd be like, you of all people not talking about a gambling scandal?
Right. Because
I lived it. And I'll say this just about gambling addiction real quick before I get to the latest update. There's a lot of shame associated with it. I've gotten to a place now 7 years since I made my last wager where I now wear it on my sleeve, not as a badge of honor, but it's a part of who I am. I can't deny it. I can't avoid it. I can't run from it. So I've chosen to live my life acknowledging the worst moments and decisions of my life and try to pay it forward by helping other people. At any one time, I'm counseling 8 to 12 kids from 16 to 28 years old right now who have gambling problems and trying to help their families out. So it's obviously very close to me, and my story all played out very publicly, which is why when people on Twitter that want to attack me call me a felon or a compulsive gambler, yeah, I am. I own it. And I ain't hiding from nobody either. I made mistakes. Those mistakes cost me everything, including my freedom and all the money I'd earned in my lifetime. And I fought back and made a life for myself and my family. And I'm proud of my second crack at a career and at life, because I've earned it and I've worked hard to get there. But there is a shame and a stigma involved with admitting to somebody that you're an addict or admitting to someone, yeah, I can't vote. I'm a convicted felon. But, when people try to throw those barbs at me, they just bounce off me because I already know who I am. I take full ownership of who I am and the bad mistakes I've made and all the good I've tried to do. Not that you ever make up for the bad things, but you still try to live your life the right way so that you can re-earn trust from people that you lost it in. Which is why there's no one in this country more qualified to talk about this and the mindset of a compulsive gambler and all the bad decisions we make as compulsive gamblers to find money, to get money. What do you do with the money? Where do you put the money? It's an all-consuming aspect of your life. And for a lot of people, myself included, the day the jig is up, as bad as that day is, it's a day of relief because the rat race is over. It's over. They got you.
Right.
So I'm sure for guys that are involved in this, there is some feeling of that. You don't have to look over your shoulder anymore because the jig is up. And that's how I feel. The latest part of this story now is that LeBron James, not involved in this at all, was reportedly the player that Damon Jones was spreading inside information about. This is according to The Athletic. Give them credit for this inside reporting. I'm not sure who did it, but it's The Athletic got it. That in a February 2023 Milwaukee Bucks LA Laker game, LeBron had told some of the guys, I twisted my ankle. I'm going to sit the game out. Happens, right? Which is why the Rozier thing is the way I explained it. Well, Damon Jones, that was not public information.
Was not public.
Only guys in the locker room knew that LeBron was not going to play in this one particular game against Giannis and Milwaukee. So Damon Jones allegedly then reached out to people in his universe and told them, bet on Milwaukee tomorrow night. LeBron ain't playing. That's the type of stuff that this investigation is now revealing. And if you just get one guy, and they'll turn a guy and promise him no jail time. Did Damon Jones feed you inside information so that you could go make a wager? If one guy's like, yes, and here's the wager I made, then Damon Jones is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And that's what this investigation is all about. Trading on inside information that is not yet public.
Right, and that's the tough part about this. I think people don't necessarily understand because they're going, well, Damon Jones didn't make the bets. Just like you said, well, he provided the information.
And he's going to get a kickback, right? So they're called straw bettors. So in other words, I got 5 buddies who'll walk in front of a bus for me.
Right.
Like you have your best friends who grew up, they'll take a bullet for me. And if I call those 5 dudes up and I'm like, look, I got inside information, nobody else got it. LeBron's not playing tomorrow night. It's not public. Nobody knows, which means you can't bet on his props because he's not playing, but you can bet against the Lakers.
Yep.
Because if you know LeBron's not playing, I'm betting on Milwaukee, right? So you tell your 5 best friends, each one of you go put $1,000, put a band on it. Each one of you, right? And when you win, I'll just take a little taste. That's how this works. So the dudes go out there, they make innocuous, innocent bets according to the casinos. No one would think twice about it. Right? They cash in. They each get their thou. I come around and say, I'll take 10%. Right? So I pocket $500. I'm making up numbers here, of course. And no one's the wiser. That's how this works. Which is why in all the leagues, and this is a crazy thing, a lot of people don't know, the players are allowed to wager on every other sport, but the team employees are not allowed to wager on any sport. Let me break that down even more. If I'm the assistant trainer to the New York Knicks, I'm, of course, going to have some inside information about the health of the 12 dudes on the Knicks, right?
Of course.
Okay. So I, as the assistant trainer, am not allowed to wager on any sport, and it's part of my contract. You're Jalen Brunson.
Right.
You're the star point guard of the New York Knicks. You can't bet on the NBA, of course, but you're allowed to wager on anything else you want as long as it's not on team property, right?
Right.
So you and I, both employed by the same team, both work for the same guy. I can't wager on anything. You can wager on everything other than the NBA. It's confusing.
Very
to
confusing.
people.
Very
and
confusing.
So now I'm the assistant trainer. Well, I can't wager on it, but I know Jalen Brunson's out tomorrow night, and nobody else knows.
Right. Injury report's not out. No one knows.
Now, listen, it takes a lot not to trade on that information.
Right.
That
Knicks,
ain't easy.
Right. Knicks are 5-point favorites.
I'm making $65,000 as the assistant trainer. I know my best players out. I might call a couple buddies.
Right.
Right?
And it's before the line moves. If the Knicks are 5-point favorites, you know as soon as it comes out, that line's going to move.
Exactly.
Get
right.
on it now. Bet the other side. Brunson's out, and boom, you change the whole thing.
And here's the other thing. This is not going to be the last of these stories. I've told every commissioner, other than Goodell, because he doesn't talk to me, I told every commissioner, and I said right to their face, man to man, you have people that are actively playing in your sport that are wagering right now today on your sport, on their games. You may not want to admit it, you may want to know it, but that's just human nature. And it also brings to mind one other thing. When you consider that this was a 3 or 4 year investigation that wound up with Terry Rozier being arrested today and Chauncey Billups, doesn't it make you think a little bit that it's odd that the investigation into Shohei Ohtani lasted a day and a half?
Yes.
Does that not trouble anybody? Like, this was a 3 to 4 year investigation to nab 2 guys, one of whom isn't even playing anymore.
Right.
But Ohtani was cleared in a day and a half? All right, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. It is funny to me that dudes are now scouring the internet and old highlights of Terry Rozier. Like, if that dude made one bad pass in the game.
See, bet that game, see?
Yeah, like all of a sudden, guys like, oh, like that.
I'm guilty of that, though. When all the names came out, the one I totally believed, but the one I totally believed the whole time, I'm just going to be honest, was Rozier. I'm sorry. I hope, listen, he's innocent till proven guilty.
Yeah.
The way he plays, I've always believed something's not right.
I think he's look. I hope he's innocent too. I hope he's exonerated. Yeah. I feel the same about Chauncey Billups. I do feel for these guys, even if they did do what they're accused of, because I've lived it.
Yeah.
And they're about to embark on a part of their life that is not going to be fun. It's because it's just not. And maybe they've earned that. And if that's the case, I still feel for them because they made some mistakes. And maybe they're gambling addicts. I don't know. I think that'll come out in the mix. I know Rozier's agent said he doesn't even gamble. But again, that's not the point here.
I want to ask you about Chauncey Billups' part. Because he was just part of those rigged games and wasn't really gambling, he was getting kickbacks. Is he a gambling addict based on this case?
I don't know. Look,
based on, I'm saying, if you base it solely on this case.
The way I read it was they were using him and some other guys, and they had a name for him. I'm forgetting the name.
Face cards.
Face cards. So celebrities.
Yeah.
So like, if I'm a guy and I'm known in the underground community of gambling, like I was, you know, they might say to other people, "Hey, if you come tonight, Carton will be there playing cards." You know,
I'd love to meet him. I love that
I got
guy.
invited to a private game. It was like $50K to walk in the door, and I didn't care about the money because I devalued money completely at that stage of my life. But the reality of this was, they to get me to come in, and I just needed an invite. I was willing to gamble anywhere.
Right.
It was, A-Rod shows up to this game once in a while. Well, you know, Jeter comes by once in a while. Now, that turned other people on. I didn't care about that.
You just want to gamble.
I just wanted to gamble.
Right.
The amounts of money were irrelevant to me. I didn't care. It was just more opportunity to gamble. But that's why they're called face cards. So if you said to a guy that's, you know, maybe I don't feel like leaving the house tonight to go and gamble. No. Chauncey Billups is going to be there. He'll sign a ball for you.
Chauncey.
Take a
I love
picture with
Chauncey.
him. Right.
With the Pistons.
I was a big Colorado fan. I was a Pistons fan.
Yeah.
Love Chauncey Billups. Hall of Famer. I can meet him tonight. So Chauncey, Now, the allegation is that he knew the game was rigged.
Right. That's
all
bad.
he's got to do is prove he had no idea the game was rigged, and he could be fine. But if you're going to these games repeatedly,
which allegedly he did,
which is what's alleged here, and you're getting a kickback from the game, that's where we're in trouble because that's bookmaking.
Right.
Now, you can't benefit from my losing. Right. If you and I have a wager and you put up 100, I put up 100, and the winner takes the 200, we're both clean. Yeah. But if I'm putting up 100 and you're putting up $110, the VIG, the extra percentage that the casinos take legally, then you've broken the law because we're not same value of the wager.
Right. Ethan right now owes me a lunch, but it was lunch for lunch bet.
Right.
So,
but I don't think the government's looking at you. I think you should turn that lunch into lunch and dinner. I won't tell anybody. My listeners,
you up it to lunch and dinner,
or maybe get a second appetizer.
Yeah, a little more cheese on the Whopper.
He can afford it. I saw the car he drove into work today.
That's true.
I'm driving a Elantra.
Right, he's driving a Ferrari here in Midtown Manhattan,
and parks right in front of the building for $250 a day.
Crazy.
But look, it's what I've said this a million times. I'm a broken record on it. You know, it's why the NBA brought me in to speak to all the players, and the Players Union blessed it and were there, watching me speak to all the rookies at the symposium. It's every commissioner's and director of PA's biggest fear, because you can't come back from that. If Terry Rozier is guilty, as I know his career is towards the end anyway, you're done. And then you have to walk around with the scarlet letter. Now, there's enough money in the world where you can insulate yourself, I think, from people that want to scream bad things in your direction and take shots at you.
Yeah.
Right? There's enough money where you can live an isolated life.
100 million? Sure.
Yeah, like you could go about your life, and even if someone does say something at a restaurant, so what? I'm rich, you're not, right? But there's still a stigma and a shame associated with it.
It is.
And for me, like, I'm 7 years out from gambling, and I got arrested September 6th of 2017, clearly worst day of my life, right? So it's been 8 years for me, 8.5 years or 8 years since I got arrested. I'm good with it now, which is why when people attack me on that specific aspect of my life, have at it, man. Like, you don't bother me anymore because I got past the shame that was involved with it. And I wear it on my sleeve because I can help people.
You absolutely can. And everybody, make sure you get to check out the podcast of this show. I'm saying this. Craig's not saying this. This is the expert on any case like this. There's nobody else in the country worth listening to as much as Craig Carton on this. So if you tuned in halfway through, make sure you go back and get the podcast of the show.
Someone asked me a good question. So a friend of mine texted me and asking, well, why is the Bilbs case involved with this case? And it's just because he's an NBA player.
That's all. That's it. Because he didn't bet sports at all.
The poker game. I know Damon Jones is apparently involved in both.
In both.
So that's the connective tissue to both. I get that. The Billups part of this case is merely because he's a well-known former basketball player.
Right.
So we're going after the NBA. He's the head coach of Portland.
Right.
And then there comes, more of this later on, because, the bigger problem then becomes, if he loses at the poker game, does he fix the Trailblazer game? In any event, have a great day. Thank you for watching.